Hear me, please type in the comments and let me know that everything's working. Okay, okay, I think everything's working on my end. I'm just making sure that I can see all the comments and then we can be off. Okay. Okay, Margaret, hello, welcome, welcome. Thank you guys for being so patient the last month as I have been unable to go live. On Tuesday, September 9th, we had, like at 2 o'clock in the morning, we had a massive, massive windstorm, hurricane winds here in Utah up to, I want to say it was over 100 miles per hour winds. And it not only destroyed the tree in my front yard, if you guys follow me on Instagram, you might have seen that, but it took out the power for 5 days, took off most of my roof, and even though it's not windy anymore, it's not storming anymore, it caused some problems with the cable in the internet, and I have been pretty much unable to do anything for the last month other than my phone. So everything is back to working, knock on wood. Hopefully everything's working. It looks like we're still not live on Facebook, on YouTube. At least I'm not seeing comments over there. We will try again. But I am seeing comments on Facebook, so yay! Amber, you made white chicken chili today for the first time. Total coincidence. That's so funny. Don, welcome. Roxanne, hello. You love my hair. Thank you. I'm having a good hair day. It feel like it's been, well, 3 years since I started growing out my hair. It's been like 3 years since I felt like I had a good hair day. But yes, I feel like today it's working out okay. All right, so we are actually making 2 different recipes today. We're going to make this the chili, and we're going to make the cornbread. Since the cornbread needs to cook, we're going to start with that. And while that's in the oven, we will finish up. We will work on the chili. So. I'm feeling a little frazzled because I wasn't sure if it was going to work until the last minute, so I'm so glad it is. All right, so this cornbread is the simplest cornbread recipe in the world. It uses cornmeal and flour, sugar, sorry, it took me a second, baking powder, and salt. Okay, we're gonna whisk these together until all the dry ingredients are completely incorporated. Oops, looks like a little bit of my flour. It was left in the bowl. Yay, looks like it is working on YouTube, but the sound's a little crackly. Oh. I think I'm going to have to get a new microphone. Is it crackly over on Facebook as well, or is it just YouTube where we're having some noise? Big Money's Life, thanks for letting me know. You want to know what the white pans I used are called? Oh, that's a great question. These that I like so much, they're actually not white, they're ceramic, so they're kind of like marbly looking-ish. Anyway, they are called Masterclass Premium Cookware, and I get them at Kohl's, is it? I believe I find them at Kohl's. They don't come in like a set, but they come like individual, so I just kind of collect little pieces at once. I love, 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 love. In fact, that's what we're using today. I got the big one, but you'll notice I got the big one that had the ceramic handles instead of the fake wood handles, and they get really hot to the touch. So I recommend looking for the ones with the wood handles. Anyway, great question. Okay, sounds good here. Thanks, Roxanne. So, all right, so Facebook sound is okay. Is it only Big Money's Life, Debbie? Does the volume sound crackly to you over there on YouTube as well? All right. Now we're going to add all of our wet ingredients. I'm going to add some oil. I'm going to add some milk. Oop. And we're going to crack some eggs. Now, the recipe on my site and the one in the description box on YouTube is a 8 by 8 inch pan recipe. I have a large family, obviously, and so I always double it. So this is actually the doubled recipe size. That's why it looks like I'm using more than the recipe calls for. It's because I am. I double it always. I don't know. Apparently not everybody has large families, so I try not to write all of my recipes too large, but I make everything big. And we just want to stir that. If you use a really big bowl, you don't have to be quite so careful because you don't have to worry about it spilling over. But this is my biggest of my pretty glass bowls that are appropriate for filming and look good on camera. So I go just a little bit careful until all the wet and dry is incorporated. And that is it. That is just how easy this cornbread is to make. So I'm going to get the 9x13 pan. Use your favorite non-stick spray. And notice I spray very liberally. I feel like that makes a big difference. And just pour that batter right in. There. Get the spatula out. It's always a little awkward doing this because I'm right-handed. So I keep the camera on the left so that my right hand isn't always in the way, but it makes it really difficult to pour pretty. Anyway. And then we're going to spread that out. And place it in the oven. And the oven is heated to, hot, 425 degrees. And I forget how long to set my timer for. All right, so 20 to 23 minutes. Let's clean up a little bit, wipe down the counter, and then we can move on to our chili. Okay. The very first thing that you do for this chili is I use dried beans for this recipe instead of canned beans. So the very first thing you want to do is boil the beans. So I actually started the beans about 2 hours ago and have been boiling them for that long. Now you can use canned beans. If you want to use canned beans, go ahead and use 4 of the 15-ounce white canned beans. I use either navy white beans or northern white beans. The navy are going to be smaller, the northern are going to be a little bit bigger, more medium-sized, and I wouldn't call them a big bean. Anyway, so they've been boiling for a while. Now I like to use the dried beans because I boil them in chicken broth and I feel like it gives the overall chili a better flavor than using canned beans, but it's a personal preference. Obviously, it's just one of those things that I brought it to a boil, turned it down to low, walked away, and have been working on other stuff. So it hasn't been like a time-consuming thing, which is why I like to do it. You can also cook your beans in the Instant Pot, but you just want to make sure that you're getting the right broth ratio. So if you're using canned beans or if you decide to use the Instapot to do your beans, you want to just make sure that at the end you have enough chicken broth to cover all the other ingredients for that second simmer. And you'll see what that looks like in a minute when we get there. But the first thing that we're going to do is saute lots and lots and lots and lots of onions. All right, we're going to heat up some olive oil in a pan. You cook your bean in broth too. Margaret, it just makes such a difference, right? It tastes so good. Now this is 4 onions. Now granted, this makes a big batch of soup. I have a lot of family members, so obviously I need a lot. Now it's kind of up to you how long you want to cook your onions for, right? A pretty traditional That is not the camera I meant to switch to. There we go. A pretty traditional way is just to cook them until they're slightly translucent, right? They go from white to a little bit clearish. Now, when I first was teaching my daughter how to cook and I told her to cook the onions until they were translucent, she just kept cooking and cooking and cooking. I'm like, honey, they should be done by now. And she's like, Mom, they're still not see-through. It took me a while to tell her that's not exactly what a recipe means. Onions are never going to be completely see-through. They're just going to be more see-through-ish than they are. Instead of being totally white, they're going to be a little bit less white. Or what I like to do is I like to cook them low and slow until they are kind of caramely colored and caramelization, and it makes a sweeter onion, and I like that flavor. But because you're making this yourself in your own home, you can cook them for as long or as little as you like to get the result that you're looking for. So we are going to get these onions started. Debbie, the sound is good for you. Good. Broke Baker, hello, welcome. Fancy family, hi from Sweden. That is, oh, thank you, baby girl. Can you just stir it up and do that and then leave it there for me? We had a last minute ingredient that I thought we had that we were low on, so I sent my daughter to the store to grab it. And so behind the scenes, it's always a little bit chaotic on Tuesdays. When she was signing up for her college classes, I'm like, you can take classes whatever you want. You just have to have Tuesdays free because she's working for me now. Like, you just have to have Tuesdays free for working on live streams. I had something else I was going to say, and now I don't remember what it was. I hate it when that happens. All right, Facebook is still doing that thing where they tell you everybody who's watching, but it means that I'm struggling to see all the comments. I'm trying to go back through real fast and see if I missed anything. Roxanne, you cook big here too. Nobody leaves hungry. Yeah, well, and you know, to be fair, my boys eat leftovers for breakfast and lunch, so I almost never have leftovers for dinner, but it would be nice at some point to have leftovers for dinner. June, hi, welcome, welcome, good to see you. Okay, it looks like I caught most of the comments, so few. I try to keep my eye on them, but you never know how it's gonna work out. Joe, brunch, hi, welcome, welcome. Or sorry, Birch, that S-C-H, Birch, is that right? Can you say that? Dan, hi, welcome. Okay, looks like I am all caught up on comments, yay! Okay, so for those of you who have just joined us, we have made some cornbread. The batter's super easy, just a couple ingredients, and it's already in the oven cooking and waiting for us. I've already boiled the beans. Hold on. Let's show you guys what that's looking like. The beans have been boiling for 2 hours, and now we're prepping all the other ingredients to go in the soup. We're now cooking up some onions, and we're going to let them cook until they are translucent. I like to cook them a little bit longer until they are golden and caramely. So I'm going to put this off to the side for a second. And I'm going to bring in the chicken. So you want to pre-cook your chicken, because I personally don't like boiled chicken. It goes back to when I was pregnant with my oldest. The smell of meat made me nauseous, not surprising. And so I'm like, I know, this will be super smart. I'm gonna go to Costco, buy a big bag of chicken breasts, and just boil it in big pots. That's how I was raised, boiling chicken. And so I boiled all this chicken, like 5 pounds, and just individually put it in little bags in the fridge so that anytime I wanted chicken in a recipe, I only cooked it that one time. Now I could just grab chicken and put it over a salad or in a casserole or something like that. I thought it was so smart. And then the next day I woke up and I opened the fridge to get breakfast and lost it. My husband had to come clean out the fridge. I swear I smelled, yeah, I've never been able to do boiled chicken breasts since then. So I prefer the flavor of either sauteing my chicken breasts or baking them. I just cover them in olive oil, salt and pepper, and bake them. You can see the hole right there from where I use the meat thermometer. I've said it before, I will say it again. I am a big proponent of using thermometers for everything. Candy thermometer, meat thermometer, anything you might need a temperature for, a thermometer is going to make a huge difference. So I've pre-baked the chicken because I didn't want to cook it in the soup and deal with the boiled chicken. So we are going to cut this now. Sorry, forgot my cutting board. Oop. And they just, boop, hot, 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 barely came out of the oven a couple minutes ago. Now you can cut or rip your chicken, whatever you prefer. I kind of go back and forth between cutting and ripping. So it just kind of depends on what I'm in the mood for. I'm just going to quickly cut this just because it'll be faster and easier while we're prepping everything else. And I'm sure there's a fancy way to cut your chicken so it's even, and I'm probably doing a terrible job, but I just like my bits of like onion and chicken and anything else that I'm cutting for a recipe to be small enough so that it all fits on one spoon together. I want to have that perfect bite. I want to get a spoonful of the soup and have the broth, have the beans, have some of the onions, have, you know, the garlic, the chilies, the chicken all in one bite. So I don't like cutting things super, super huge that I can only have like one carrot or one piece of beef in a stew or anything. So I tend to cut things a little smaller than the average bear, but that's just me. That's the best part about cooking for yourself, though, is being able to personalize those choices and cook and prepare your ingredients however you like. So when I say you can cook the chicken however you like, if you like boiled chicken, go ahead and boil that chicken. All right, the onions you can hear sizzling away. Make sure that you just kind of give that a nice stir occasionally. They don't stick in these pans. I love these pans. Have I mentioned how much I love these pans? And kind of depending on how well you cook your chicken, sometimes it rips better than others. But ripping takes a lot more time. I mean, I like the end result of a good shredded chicken. And I have heard all of the rumors about putting it in your mixer and shredding it that way. And I have done that, but I found that when I did, it shredded it too much. And if I only like beat it a couple times, it would have these really big long strands still. And then if I went even further and did a little bit more, it was just shredded to like thin, like hair pieces versus like big shredded chunks. So I didn't love that method. So I've kind of gone back to just either cutting it or shredding it myself. But anyway, I know everybody kind of has their own way of doing things. All right. Sorry, it seemed like I missed a couple comments again. It keeps telling me that I have a comment, but then it's not scrolling and showing me you've never had this type of chili, Adrian. I hope that you like it. I make traditional beef chili as well, but this is by far my favorite. Anytime we do like a chili cook-off or a chili contest, this is always the one that I make. I tend to make it on the spicy side. You can control that with your ingredients. My family, my immediate family loves spicy food, so it's great. My extended family, meaning my parents and siblings, don't, so I always make it a little bit cooler for them. And I tend to make it a little cooler when I'm making it for a crowd as well. Okay, our chicken is all cut up, so I'm going to put it off to the side. And bring our onions back. All right, so they are at the point that if you're looking for translucent, these are good. If you want to go for caramelization, like I said earlier, I would cook this a little bit longer. And for a good caramelized onion, you want to cook it like on medium-low, because if you cook it too high, it will actually go from this to burnt onion, and that's not what we're going for. So slow and slow is what you want for caramelized onions. But since this is a live stream, and we don't want to take the next 20 minutes caramelizing these onions, these are cooked enough, and so we are going to move on. Tony, you just joined from Sydney, Australia. What type of beans? That is a great question, Tony. I use white beans. because it's a white chili. I'll use either navy beans or northern beans. The navy are what I'm using today. They're smaller. The northern beans are like a medium-sized bean. I'm just going to move the onions over to this burner so they can cook just a couple minutes longer while we add the rest of the ingredients to the soup. So, I love this pan set. I've mentioned it many times, my love for this pan set, but when you get the ceramic handles, they get really, really hot. So, where the fake wood handle is actually just fine. Oh, let's get the fan on before I ruin my camera. There we go. Okay, so the beans have been simmering in broth for 2 hours at this point, so they are nice and cooked. So this is the navy beans that I talked about. Oh, there we go. This is what they look like when they're cooked. The northern beans are going to be a little bit bigger when they're cooked all the way. So now I'm going to add garlic. And this calls for a lot of garlic. I have mentioned before, I'm a garlic fanatic. If you do not love garlic as much as I do, you do not have to use them in this. Now, I have been questioned why I don't cook the garlic with the onions. I have before. You totally can. But when I'm doing the caramelization and I'm going for that low and slow, I don't add the garlic because it does tend to go on the burn side more quickly. So I just add them to the soup when I'm doing that. And then we have green chilies, canned green chilies. Now, I don't know about you guys. There have been a couple of ingredients this year I have struggled to find. Pumpkin puree is one of them. And green chilies is the other. I have been requesting green chilies in my grocery delivery for like the last 4 weeks, and nada, nothing. All sizes, all brands, everything is sold out. So I don't know who is buying what, but it has been crazy. All right, so now we're going to add all of our spices. So we're going to do, here's my tablespoon. Okay, 8 tablespoons of ground cumin. Now, so this goes through a lot of cumin. It's the main flavor. It's really strong, and it's totally worth doing. I will say I buy a lot of cumin, mostly because of this recipe. So 8 teaspoons is 1 tablespoon and a teaspoon. Or no, 2 tablespoons and 2 teaspoons if you're measuring that way. I like to cut down and use tablespoons when I can. So a tablespoon is 3 teaspoons. So that's 1, 2, 3. Oh. 4, 5, 6. 7, 8. And you can see how precise I'm not being. When I'm cooking, I'm not super precise, not like I am when I'm baking. When I'm baking, I am super, super precise. Oh, Margaret, you answered earlier. Thank you so much for answering Tony. Seriously, it is not keeping up on any comments. So next we're going to add the oregano. And you can use leaf oregano or ground oregano. I use leaf oregano for this recipe. Oh, 1, 2, 3. It calls for 4 teaspoons. 4. And then cayenne pepper. This is what gives it its flavor. I use 4 teaspoons. And again, this is a very large batch of soup. It would be super easy to half this if you don't want to make a big batch. So if you're cooking for people who are a little bit more sensitive to heat, I would recommend halving the cayenne pepper, letting it simmer, taste it, and see if you want to add more, and add to your taste. Now we're going to add the onions. Oh. smells so good. Let's adjust that. And add the chicken. There we go. And then you just want to give everything a good stir. So you can see, so if you decide, like we were talking earlier, if you want to use canned beans instead of dried beans, what you would want to do is drain the canned beans and put all the ingredients in, and then put broth, chicken broth in until everything is covered. Now notice it's not covered like a ton. There's not like a whole inch of broth over this. So I would guess, because I've only ever done it this way, I would guess it would be at least 6 cups of broth, maybe 8. I'm not quite sure how much broth the beans soaked up. One of these days when I make this, I'm going to drain the beans and measure how much broth is left so that I can answer that question a little bit better for people. But I figured during a live stream was not the day to do that. What am I making? That's a great question. I'm making white chicken chili and cornbread. The cornbread is in the oven. We've just added almost all the ingredients to white chicken chili, and we're going to let this simmer. All right, so now that everything is stirred up, what we want to do is let this, oh, I meant to stay on that camera. We want this to simmer for another 20 minutes or so. Remember, soups get better the longer that they simmer, so the longer the better. Oh, salt and pepper. You want to add salt and pepper to taste. Now, you can simmer for the 20 minutes and then taste it and decide how it is, because remember, broth has quite a bit of sodium and salt in it. So you have to decide for yourself if you need any more salt or not. Ooh, I got a big thing of cayenne pepper. Whoo! And some pepper. I usually do about a quarter to half the amount of pepper of whatever I do in salt. But when it's something like this that has that sodium and broth in it, you kind of eyeball the pepper to your own flavor. All right. So I add some of the salt at the beginning. I'm going to let it simmer for 20 minutes, add the rest of the ingredients, and then right before serving it, I'll do another taste test and see if it needs any more salt again. So, in a perfect world, this is going to simmer for 20 minutes, but because we're live, we're actually going to skip that step. Oh. Kind of. All right. I am going to prep our last couple ingredients. Let that simmer as long as that's prepping. The cornbread is about to come out of the oven, and then we're just going to move on with the soup. So, like I said, traditionally I would let it simmer for 20 minutes. For today, that's not a thing. All right, the last two ingredients are what make this soup creamy. So far everything that we've done has been giving it flavor and a kick, but not the creaminess. So what we use for that is some sour cream and 2 pounds of Monterey Jack cheese. And that is what we're going to do now. So let's talk about cheese for a second. When you use, let's see, Kelly made some with ground turkey and it changed the color. It was not white like you're expecting, but it's still very good. Yeah, you can totally substitute turkey and chicken in pretty much any recipe, but yeah, it does change the color a little bit. It also depends on how much cheese you use. You've heard there's a shortage on pumpkin. Yes, I heard that too. It still is frustrating. Oh, cornbread's done. Oh, it was a pretty chilly day today, but still warm enough that having the oven on is pretty hot. Okay, let's show you the cornbread. Come on, camera. There we go. So here we go. Cornbread is beautiful and golden and ready. Okay. Cheese. Lost track of what I was doing. So when they pre-shred cheese and they put it in that bag of shredded cheese and they sell it to you at the grocery store and you're going, who needs a grater? I can just buy shredded cheese. They actually coat the cheese, that shredded cheese, in potato starch and a word I can't pronounce. Anyway, preservative stuff to keep it from clumping together and turning back into a block of cheese, which is really effective when you want shredded cheese like that. But because they're coated in all that stuff, it doesn't melt well. So anytime I'm using cheese for a recipe, I want it to melt, like spinach artichoke dip, Alfredo, mac and cheese, broccoli and cheddar soup, this soup. You want to shred it yourself. Very, 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 very important to get the very best results. So I have an enormous block of cheese. I forgot to pre-cut it before we got started today, so I'll do that really fast now. So I like Monterey Jack cheese for this. You could use any white cheese that you like. Whoop. And this is a great chore to set your kids at if all you have is a hand grater. I have the grating attachment for my mixer, of course, so it makes really short work of this. Just like that, 2 pounds of cheese grated. Now, if you don't want to take the time to grate it, it doesn't have to be in the shredded form for it to melt. You can always just chop it up into really small blocks. So that's all that matters. Let's talk about, let's see the cheese. And this is going to melt beautifully and is so worth it. So once the soup has simmered for 20 minutes, we're going to add sour cream and all of our cheese, and that is what's going to make it so creamy. Okay. One of the other questions that I get a lot of that I wanted to answer before we get to finishing this is, can you freeze the soup? People like the idea of making a big batch, and unlike me, you don't necessarily have 4 teenagers at home who eat 3,000 bowls of soup in one sitting, and so they need less soup. So you can make a big batch of soup like this, but anytime that you add dairy to anything, it doesn't freeze well. So any soup that adds dairy to it, what the recommendation that I would give and most other chefs would give you is not to add the dairy component when you freeze it. So we're going to take the soup we have made the way it is, and this is the stage where you would freeze it. All right. Trying to get it into frame. So this right here, and you can freeze it in half, you can freeze it in thirds, whatever ratio you want. You just want to be aware that you want to add that much less of the sour cream and cheese. So this is the stage where we would freeze it. I would pull out, let's say some of my kids actually move out, and I want to half this. You can either make a halved version of this recipe, or I can make it once and then only have to reheat it a second time, right? So I would divide this in half and let half of it cool to freeze, and then I would eat the rest. So I would take 1 pound of cheese instead of 2 pounds of cheese, and I would take 1 cup of sour cream instead of 2 cups of sour cream, and add it to the soup. And then whatever container that you're using for soups, I like to use plastic bags and double bag it, freezer bags. Then you can write in that little section where the brand label is. I would write, you know, half batch of soup, reheat and add 1 cup sour cream, 1 pound of cheese, because you think you're going to remember. You're like, how could I forget this? But you will. At least I always do. And I'll look at this leftover and go, how much was this? How much cheese and sour cream should I be adding? I don't know. Hopefully that's not just me. Please tell me that I'm not the only one who does that. Anyway, Broke Baker, have you tried the beans in your Instapot? Yes, I have. I've made this whole soup in the Instapot, but I made some much smaller batch, and I prefer the larger batch. And honestly, there's some things that I don't know. I like it on the stovetop better, personally. There's no such thing as too much cheese. Amen. You and I are like soulmates. 100%. There's no such thing as too much cheese. Sorry, try to get, looks delicious. Thank you, Margaret. Man, seriously, Facebook is not playing nice with me today. And the comments, beautiful cornbread, yummy. Thank you so much. Oh my word, I'm so sorry about this, guys. You do that too. Okay, phew, caught up. So let's add all the glorious goodness. So because I want the cheese to melt, I'm actually gonna add that first, but I'm gonna add it in small batches. I'm gonna add like 1/3 of it and then stir it in. Now you remembered from when I was stirring it earlier, this is a pretty thick, not thick, like it's a watery soup, but it's thick in that I mean there's not a lot of broth ratio to the chicken and the beans and everything else, right? And once this cheese melts, it's going to be even thicker. So again, I'm a creamy, thick soup person versus watery soups. I'm not really a brothy soup gal. All right, I'm going to add another 1/3 of the cheese. And stir that in. And so delicious. I will say, all this melted cheese can be hard to wash off of everything. But you can see the whole soup is already lightening up in color from where it was before. We're getting those strings of melted cheese. Ooh. Oh, I meant to keep some off to add to the top of the soup. Like how we do that. Get that all stirred in. Now you can continue to simmer after you've added all the dairy. It's just, you'll get a better flavor meld when it's in the broth form versus when it's in the creamy cheesy form. You want to be careful not to heat it too much once you've added the cheese. So it takes a little bit of stirring to get this cheese totally incorporated. Now we're going to add the sour cream. Now this is going to cool down the soup because the sour cream is cold, which is why I do it after the cheese has started to melt. Not that the soup is going to be anywhere near cold. It's still going to be very warm. Bill and Gloria, you're making this. Your husband would like it. You're so pretty. Oh my word, thank you so much. Gloria, I appreciate that. You're very sweet. You're my new favorite person. All right. And just keep stirring this in. When I am taking this to like a chili cook-off, right? I can't be the only one who likes to win those, right? Oh, oh! This is right on the verge of being too big for this pot. I am making a mess. Doesn't help that it's not on this trivet evenly. Okay. I will cook it this way on the stove, but then I will put it in my crock pot, and I will leave it in the crock pot just on low, or on warm, I mean on the warm setting, and then I can take it and keep it warm for serving. If I'm just serving it at home, I just leave it on the stove, obviously. So, ooh. I'm trying really hard not to spill. So as you can see, this is still a little bit stringy, right? The cheese is still a little stringy. It really just takes a couple minutes of stirring for this to become just smooth and creamy and have everything come together. So don't give up. Just because it looks a little bit stringy at this stage, just keep going. Brooke Baker, you'd forget to. I know, right? Thank you. Thank you for letting me know I'm not the only one. Like, seriously. There's so many things, and I'm like, oh, of course I remember that. How could I ever forget that? And then the next day, I'm like, what was that thing again? Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm the master of forgetfulness. Ooh-hoo-hoo. Almost completely. I still have a couple chunks of sour cream that I'm seeing here and there, but we are. If you have a larger pot, you can use that. This pot's just so pretty and it cooks so beautifully. I like using it. Also, that 20 minutes of simmering that we didn't get to do, usually the broth will go down slightly during that time, so that helps with this. But like I said, we're doing the live stream version, which means cut down on the simmer and just move towards serving. All right, so here we go, white chicken chili. I'm going to cut up, let's see. We're going to make it all pretty, do some serving and some plating now. And whew, this will help me be able to stir too. All right. I'm going to take this away. Try not to spill anything. Okay. And bring over the cornbread. Where'd my little thing? Oh, there's. Like, I swear I had a spatula out for the cornbread already. And of course, I'm going for a middle piece because I'm the mom and I'm allowed to do that. Thankfully, I have some kids who are great about eating the side pieces for me so that I can enjoy the center. Whew. Let's get a close-up of that. Beautiful cornbread. So good. And there we go. Get ourselves a nice shot. to make it pretty, I'm going to add some extra cheese on top. And I like to add some tortilla chips on top. And I usually add a little smattering of something green. Oh, oh my gosh, I keep doing that. Like cilantro, but I forgot to pre-chop some. I'm not going to take the time to do that now. So the cornbread looks stunning. Oh, thank you so much. Big Money's Life, you forget to. You're lucky to remember what day it is. Amen. Amen. Yummy, it all looks so delicious. Thank you so much, Margaret. Where am I located? You're in El Paso. I used to live in Houston and I used to live in Dallas. I'm currently though in just north of Salt Lake City, Utah. Looks amazing. Can't wait to make it. Let me know when you do. Don't forget, if you guys ever make any of the recipes that you see here on my channel or that you see on my website, share them on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and tag me at Ashlee Marie Cakes, and I will share your creations in my Instagram stories. Yummy, can't wait to make it. More videos, please. Amazing chef. Oh, thank you so much. So typically I go live every Tuesdays. I have not the last month because we've had some issues with the internet after a big, huge storm that knocked out the power for a week. Hey, baby girl. Hey. But I am planning on being live again every Tuesday from now on. Knock on wood. We'll see what happens. So I wanted to ask you guys really quickly before we take their final bite and before I finish up the video. Get your crowdy close, baby.
Where's the pumpkin bread?
It's gone. Sorry. I'll make more pumpkin bread later.
Okay.
Sorry, my daughter just got home. Next week, I was planning on, last year I made homemade pumpkin puree from a sugar pumpkin. It looked like this, sugar pumpkin. And then I made pumpkin pie. And the video had a lot of problems on YouTube. So I was going to refilm it this year. I was going to do it in like mid-November, a couple weeks before Thanksgiving, so that it's fresh in everybody's mind. But because of the pumpkin puree shortage that we're having, I was wondering if you guys would like me to do that sooner and do homemade pumpkin puree next week. And then I can either make pumpkin pie out of it, or I could do my pumpkin coconut curry soup, which is another soup, so it'd be kind of a repeat of this week, but obviously different recipe. So I could do that, or another recipe that I've been meaning to share with you guys and we haven't quite got put together yet. I was going to do it last month, but September. To be fair, it was my birthday month, and the last big birthday I had a hurricane. So, you know, of course we had hurricane winds this year. Something about my birthday. What was I saying? Oh, the Instant Pot cheesecake is another recipe that I have been wanting to walk everybody through and talk about how easy it is to do. So please let me know in the comments if next week you would like to see homemade pumpkin puree so that you can learn how to do it yourself and have it available for all of those pumpkin recipes that you want to make in the fall. And if you want me to make a recipe alongside it, like my coconut curry soup or pumpkin pie a little bit early, or if you'd rather see something like Instant Pot cheesecake. So let me know. And now it's time for, whoops, wrong shot. Enjoying this. So now I will go for even more sweetness and add honey butter to my cornbread typically, but I didn't have any made today. I'm still getting some strands of cheesy goodness. And like I said, I like to get a little of everything in my bite. Onions, beans, chicken, green chilies. So good. I love this soup so much. It's seriously one of my all-time favorites. So good. I'm making a mess. Usually you don't eat, 4 feet away from your countertop. And then let's try the cornbread. So good. So good, so good, so good. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me this week. Thanks for being patient as I didn't have internet for the last month. Yes to pie. Pumpkin cookies. Oh, that's a good suggestion. My daughter has been begging me to make pumpkin cookies. Pumpkin puree for pumpkin pie. Yes, pumpkin chocolate chip. Pumpkin pie and pumpkin puree and pie sound good. Right, it looks like pumpkin puree with pumpkin pine. Looks divine. Thank you so much, Janice. Is winning. Now for the butter on the cornbread. I know I'm going to make some honey cornbread as soon as I'm done with this video, but I was prepping for the video and I'm like, I should get the stuff out for honey butter, and then I just forgot. The cornbread looks stunning. You wouldn't mind seeing the cheesecake. You've only used neck pumpkins for pie. I vote puree. Yes, you definitely are going to have much better results with using a pie pumpkin. I have my grocery store had some really little ones like this, but I prefer to find like this size right here. I got this one at Trader Joe's this year. They had a lot, but they both are sugar pumpkins. They're both pie pumpkins. They will both work just fine. But this is the kind that I prefer, that I use the most often. So everybody grab a pumpkin and we will do pumpkin puree next week. Thanks for having you. Good to see you. Thank you so much. Okay. I think I've answered all the questions. If I missed your comment or your question, I'm so sorry. I really try to keep up with all of them. I apologize. Same time, same place next week, Tuesday, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern time. And yeah, I'm gonna go eat dinner now. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next week. If I can turn off. Maybe, maybe not. My touch screen is adding to the joy of my life right now. All right, bye.